Hello, everyone. We are here with Alex Sejo, directly from Toronto with us. Thank you so much, Al, for your time to be here with us and talk a little bit about astrology today with us. How are you doing?
I'm good and I'm really excited. I always love getting to share astrology with everyone. And so thank you for this opportunity today.
That's amazing. So let's dive right in. So, could you share with us what would be some of the benefits of understanding about astrology?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. The beautiful thing about astrology is that it's actually a really diverse study. And so there are many different forms and branches of astrology that can provide benefit. But as a general I guess as a general rule of thumb, one of the things that I love about astrology is that it helps you to understand yourself. Every one of us comes here and we have a purpose. We're born into this world and we have a purpose and we have talents, we have abilities, we have strengths and areas of wisdom that we need to help us fulfill that purpose. And so the beauty of astrology is that it helps us to understand the skill set that we have brought with us in order to accomplish the ultimate joy. And then on top of it, the other beautiful thing that I love about it is that it awakens compassion within us. When you
Oh,
start studying astrology, you start to gain a deeper understanding, of course, of yourself, but you also start to gain a deeper understanding of the people who are around you. And you start to appreciate things about them that perhaps you hadn't realized. Or you also start to understand pieces of them and behaviors and traits that maybe you didn't have an appreciation of before. And so it helps you to understand why the Cancers in your life behave this way and why the Leos in your life are like this. And to go from that being a trigger, to go from it being something that's negative in your relationship, to actually cultivating an appreciation of them on a different level.
that's amazing because it works like a guide for us, right? Because instead of us being against the flow, it would help us not to fight and be swimming uphill instead of just flowing with the energies that are present in that moment in our lives and also and other people's, like you said, the connection with others. It would help us have more clarity, right? To not fight so hard because sometimes we can just hear what we need to do and go with the flow. Not that we'll help everything. And it's like, because there's that saying, oh, if it's meant to be, it will not be that hard. And I hear that so much in Brazil, and it gives me just like, oh, no, 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 that's not what you're trying to say. So, would astrology help us, like in that sense?
Absolutely. So if it's meant to be, it will be, or it won't be that hard, or whatever. Okay. So I'd like to use the analogy of a sailboat. Okay. So you want to go to Tahiti. Let's say we want to go to Tahiti and you're going to take a sailboat there. Are you going to leave it up to the winds to get you there?
Hard. Be very hard.
I mean, you could end up in Antarctica for all you know, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so in astrology, I like using the analogy of the sailboat because we are not just receptive to these forces, but rather we can actively utilize them as well. And so when I know the wind is going to be blowing in a certain direction, well, I can manage my sail so that I can utilize that wind so that I end up in Tahiti instead of Antarctica, because that's really where I want to go. And so astrology helps us to connect to cycles. And of course, we have the greater cycles of the sun and the moon and the planets, right? But then there's also cycles within us as well. And so it helps us to understand where we're at in terms of those cycles and what the energies are asking of us so that we can utilize them in the same way we utilize the wind when we're sailing. They help carry us there. It's not if it's meant to be, it will be. It's the wind is blowing me where I want to go. So I'm going to unleash my sail so that it can actually carry me further.
Yes, it's really important to be aware and with these energies and use them to help us because we need to be an active participant in our lives and not just let whatever happens or, you know, And this is so important today and every time in world. But today, I feel like we need to be very conscious of all those things around us, that it will actually help us, like you're saying, right? If we get to know about the wind, or if we get to know about the planets, if we get to know the qualities, virtues, and maybe a little bit of the vices too, we would have more compassion to us and to others in certain times of our lives, right?
Absolutely. And just to kind of add to what you're saying, Davina Lisa, when we study astrology, we're not studying it from the place of we're victims to it. As you mentioned, we work actively with it because these are forces that we can work in tandem with. And as we do that, we get a better result. And so the beautiful thing about studying mystery school astrology is that this is not personality typology. Myers-Briggs, many people have done that already. Most people don't need to define their personality more. Rather, they need to embrace the forces that they have brought down with them that are their strength so that they can start getting better results in their life through growth.
Yes. And we were talking about that the other day. How can we demystify astrology in the path of the initiate? Because as initiate, like you're starting to say, we use these forces in a different way. Because a lot of people out there think, oh, Mercury is in retrograde or the moon is this way. And they talk about the planets controlling what is going to happen in our lives.
Yeah.
And I know that the astrology in the mystery school is completely different because we can use to learn and work with these forces to find the strength. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. You bring up interesting examples of, Mercury retrograde, which is probably the number one time that I hear these kinds of things. And I know you do too. And this concept that you mentioned of the planets ruling over us as though we're puppets, right? And whatever goes wrong in our life, we can ascribe to Mercury retrograde or the full moon or, all of these different things. And in the mystery school, we actually are trying to reverse that relationship. For many people, that is the truth, that they are very susceptible to these forces, and that as they rise, and as these forces fall, they fall. But the initiate is actually trying to reverse that process. And so through the path of initiation, we actually embark upon a process where we start reclaiming our own power. And
Yeah.
as we clean up our relationship with the planets, so for example, when you have a stronger relationship with your own mind and your communication abilities, then Mercury retrograde doesn't mean as much to you, right? As you embrace the mind of God, Mercury retrograde, oh, okay, it happened. Oh, I didn't even notice.
Right. Yes.
And
And yeah,
that's what we want.
yes.
We don't want to experience highs and lows and drama of life just because it's the full moon and then tomorrow it's Mercury retrograde, and then there's a lunar eclipse happening, and that kind of thing. That's a life of drama, and that's what nobody wants. And
And
actually,
victimhood, right?
yeah,
Yes.
to have those highs and lows of energy and vitality and mood and that kind of thing. And so as we reverse that relationship and we start to reclaim our power, we actually have the chance at lasting stability and joy and also manifestation.
Yes, amazing. One of the things that really called my attention in the Zoom meeting that we did the other night was about this topic that we as initiates, we are growing above the forces controlling us. And you mentioned that we are not one zodiac sign, but we are all of them because we can activate or awaken the strengths of all of them and work and balancing all the weakness becoming strength. I thought that was amazing to hear. Like, okay, I'm not just one, I'm all of them. I loved it.
Absolutely. One of the things that I like to tell people is if you were to think of your purpose as a cake, well, you have ingredients in your cake. And so your personal chart is the ingredients in the cake, but it doesn't mean you don't know how to bake with the other ingredients. It just means they're not in this recipe.
I love it.
And so we need to know those things, and we need to acknowledge that there is no nature that is above the others. In the zodiac wheel, there are 12 signs, sometimes 13, depending on the form of astrology you're studying. But those 12 or 13 signs, none of those natures is superior to the other, just different. It's like trying to ask someone, what's the best element? Well, they're probably going to say the one that they connect to the most, right?
Yes.
But the truth is, there is no element that is better than the others.
It's like some people say, like, oh, this is a Kabbalistic number. And I look at them and it's like, yes, it is. And like all others. Yes, I love it.
And so when we start to acknowledge that there are many kinds of nature, right, that there are many forces and that none of those forces is above the other, that's when we can really start to manifest, but also, as I mentioned earlier, start to have peace and compassion for others and to become more accepting of others. Just because their energetic nature is different from yours, it doesn't make them wrong.
Yes. So since you're talking about having compassion and understanding others through astrology, what could you say about astrology and relationship?
Oh boy, I love this question. So first of all, your zodiac sign and your partner's zodiac sign have nothing to do with whether or not you're going to have a successful relationship together.
Even though we all look, oh, this one works with this one. Yes.
Well, do you honestly think that someone could define you just by your sun sign? Just by your zodiac sign? So many people read the common descriptions and go, yeah, some of that's me, but not everything. And in astrology, we have masculinity and femininity. And there is an art to doing astrology of relationships. And what it does is it actually looks at where the masculinity and femininity in the chart lie and the interactions. And so they call that synastry. And this is where the internet predictions of whether or not your astrological signs are going to work can be wrong, because you can take two supposedly compatible signs and they might not work out. Because when you look at Venus and Mars, the masculine and the feminine, and how they're interacting between the two charts, it might not work. Or it might not work initially, but they might choose to make it work, to learn, to understand each other, to have love.
And that's what I love about the astrology and the mystery school and this path, which you are leading as an international instructor, that it's very individual and you always look at all the details of each one to talk specifically about that person. Because even though, for example, maybe I have the same a zodiac sign about somebody else, I could be a completely different person, and this might work completely for me and the other person is not. So I'm so excited to have you come soon to teach us the 7 sacred planets in Brazil in March. And you're going to be doing a birth chart for everyone in that class. Is that correct, Alex?
Yes, absolutely. One of my favorite things about teaching 7 sacred planets, the whole reason I put it together was because I never found a good introductory book. People would always ask me, Alex, are there any good astrology books to start off with? My answer was always no. There aren't any, because none of them get to the spirit and to the magic of astrology. And so that's what 7 sacred planets is about. And in that class, because you're going to be learning about these planetary and zodiacal archetypes, it's important you know what yours are.
Yeah, so I can pay attention even more to that one detail.
Absolutely. And receive the magic of it and ways to connect with it, because it's important. It's part of your expression.
And it also really helps guide us in our lives. Like you're starting our conversation today, all these forces could be very effective on guiding us right through life and helping us be better person, because we can awaken these strengths or work on our weakness to become better, getting to know ourselves better through astrology.
Absolutely. In the mystery school, we have two methods of growth. We have the reduction of the negative ego or elimination of the negative ego, but then there's also growing into our godliness. And astrology helps us to understand our godliness. It helps us to understand the positive gifts and areas of wisdom that we have to share with the world. Because every one of us has something to share with the world. That's why, we're in the times of Shambhala. And so that can be found in the birth chart. And so I always love being able to share bits and pieces so that you can walk away with a deeper understanding of yourself. Knowledge for knowledge's sake doesn't serve. And so I always love it when people walk away with a stronger connection to the forces that they anchor and utilize.
That's amazing. I'm really excited and really happy to have you come soon to Brazil, because when you teach this class, you're just so passionate about the subject and you have so much wisdom to share, but in a magical way, like you said, just to awaken within each of us about who we truly are, that are God and goddesses walking this path, this world together. So I'm really excited to have you soon in Brazil. Al, thank you so much for talking about astrology in this magical way that only you can do it.
Thank you, Divina Lisa. Like I said, I'm always excited to share, and I'm so looking forward to returning back to Brazil and sharing the magic of the stars.
Amazing. Bye.